Have you ever just stopped to think about where your intelligence actually lives? Like, really think about it. Most of us, we just point right to our heads. We assume this incredible ability to process information, solve crazy, complex problems, and navigate the world is completely locked away in this single organ inside our skulls. But what if I told you that's kind of just a tiny fraction of the whole story? What if the true nature of intelligence is so vast and yet so incredibly microscopic that it literally shatters our everyday assumptions? Well, welcome to our explainer. Today we're going to unravel a pretty profound mystery from our source material and completely rethink everything you thought you knew about where intelligence really resides.
Okay, let's dive into this. So, the absolute first major paradigm shift we need to make here is realizing that intelligence is nested. It's not just some top-level feature of you as a whole, complete human being. No, intelligence exists simultaneously right down inside your individual cells. Think about that for a second. You are an incredibly smart thinking creature, for sure, but you're literally built out of billions of microscopic entities that are, in their own right, highly intelligent. They're processing information, reacting to their environments, and solving microscopic problems every single second of your life. To truly grasp the magnitude of this, we're going to take a massive journey, a journey of expanding computational scales. Let's call it the cosmic zoom. We're going to start incredibly small and scale up in ways that, well, I don't want to spoil it, but it gets pretty mind-blowing. So let's ground ourselves by walking through these nested layers. Step one is that foundation we literally just talked about, those individual, highly intelligent biological cells. But when those cells seamlessly combine and communicate with one another, they scale up to step two, humans and other animals. Suddenly, boom, you have a centralized brain navigating the macro world. But the nesting doesn't stop there. Not even close. When individual humans communicate and combine their efforts, we hit step three, the group. This is exactly how smaller intelligent entities seamlessly stack together to form a much larger, way more capable intelligent entity. Let's hang out at that human-to-human scale for a minute. This right here is the true power of group intelligence, or collective intelligence. Think about what actually happens when a team of people works on a project together. They suddenly have a vastly greater ability to solve complex problems and accomplish really difficult goals than any single one of them would on their own. Why is that? Because the group itself essentially becomes a larger intelligent entity. It's basically multiple brains acting like a multi-core processor, taking in data, breaking it all down, and computing a solution together. Let's anchor this somewhat abstract concept with a highly specific, very relatable example straight from our source material. Take the working relationship between the course instructor, Anton, and his teaching assistant, Daniel. Now, on his own, Daniel is a highly intelligent guy. He's a PhD student in economics at UVA, he researches macrofinance, and, fun fact, he grew up in Lumberton, North Carolina, right off I-95. Now, Anton is obviously highly intelligent on his own, too. But when Anton and Daniel work together to run a course, with Daniel moderating discussions and handling the administrative problem-solving, they form a true group intelligence. Together, as a unit, they can process way more information and manage a much larger educational project than Anton ever could by himself. And that brings us to the actual, literal mechanics of how this works. The information processing doesn't just happen isolated inside Anton's head or isolated inside Daniel's head. The computation literally happens across the different brains within the group. But how exactly do brains transmit data to each other? Well, they do it through spoken language, written text, and even that unspoken body language we are constantly emitting and reading from one another. Different brains take on different pieces of a complex problem. And when you realize this, honestly, it changes how you see the world. Every study group you've ever been a part of, every major corporation, every organization, they're all essentially just massive multi-brain computers. But of course, our ability to form collective intelligences doesn't just stop with other human beings. It is time for our next massive jump in scale. Because we are just so exceptionally good at networking our brains together, we've actually learned how to seamlessly integrate machines into our intelligence systems. We're moving from human-to-human networks right into the incredible synergy of human-to-machine partnerships. Now, what's really interesting about this setup is the clear division of computational labor between flesh and silicon. Think about you and your laptop. You are literally augmented by its problem-solving capabilities. You form an entity that is significantly more intelligent than either of you alone. And the information transmission happens totally seamlessly via your monitor and your keyboard. Your human brain does what it does best. It performs computations that spit out tentative algorithms or ideas.
Then it hands the really heavy lifting over to the laptop, which performs rapid computations to obtain results from those algorithms. Finally, your brain looks at the monitor, processes that result, and computes whether you need to debug or maybe improve the plan. It is just this perfect, beautiful feedback loop of combined intelligence. Now, if you and your laptop form a combined intelligence, what happens when we scale that up to 8 billion people and billions of machines? Well, we reach the global scale. In our modern age of intense globalization, humanity as a whole essentially forms one massive group intelligence. There is this huge common pool of human culture and data that almost all of us compute on, draw from, and constantly contribute to. And even though our individual goals aren't always perfectly aligned, the sheer volume of information being processed at the species level is absolutely staggering. Which leads us to a completely fascinating redefinition of a classic sci-fi concept. A cyborg isn't just, a guy with a robotic arm. On a global scale, humanity as a whole is the cyborg. We are a singular, planetary-scale organism that is literally part flesh and part silicon. The computing devices we've built and the vast internet that connects them all are deeply, fundamentally intertwined with our biological culture. And because of this integration, humanity today is exponentially more powerful and computationally capable than the mere accumulations of human flesh that existed just a couple hundred years ago. And yet, there is one more zoom we can make. Taking the absolute broadest possible perspective, we can look past our human tools and look right at life itself. What if the entire biological process of evolution is itself a matter of massive, prolonged intelligence? What if the entire history of life on Earth is actually the ultimate algorithm? And this brilliantly illustrates how evolution accomplishes its complex goals through a literal step-by-step, incredibly intricate process of computation. I mean, think about the evolutionary program. Step 1, it takes basic code, RNA and DNA strands, and uses them to build organisms. Step 2, it evaluates the fitness of that organism by letting it live its life and face completely random environmental shocks. Step 3, it deletes or just throws away the genetic code of those that are unfit or unlucky. And finally, Step 4, it copies the surviving genetic information, leaving just a little bit of room for mutations to iterate and occasionally create even better adapted organisms. It is literally a slow, methodical, trial-and-error computer program running on a planetary scale over billions of years. So the absolutely crucial point we need to take away from this explainer is this. Computation and intelligence aren't just things happening inside your head. They are deeply nested, highly scalable phenomena that define the very fabric of life, society, and our technology. From a single microscopic cell, to a study group in college, to you typing on a laptop, all the way up to a global cyborg network and the grand algorithm of evolution itself. The through line is just incredible. So I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to really ponder. Look at the world around you today. Look at your workplace, your family, the apps you use every day, and the ecosystems right outside your window. Which of those systems you interact with actually constitute a group intelligence? The answer might just change the way you view the universe forever.